Hello students, so let's do the problem. And it says, what is the slope and y-intercept of the line represented by the graph below? So I'm looking for slope and I'm also looking for y-intercept. Is that right? So there's at least two ways that I can do slope. I can do slope by doing rise over run. Very good. So Winnie said that I can do rise over run. I can do rise over run if a graph is given to me, number one, and if I can actually tell that the points or the coordinates are in a specific whole numbers, not decimals, because then it won't work. So let's do rise over run. So I'm going to go from the bottom point to the top. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the rise, it's 4 up, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Very good. 8 to the right. And that's what I call the run. So I can write down my numbers as 4 over 8. And if I simplify 4 over 8, I will get a 1 over 2. So let's write the labels here. So this is a slope, and my slope I found it as 1/2, which is positive, right? So I want you guys to do the next thing. Remember that there's another way that I can check if my slope should it be positive or negative. I'm going to circle the highest point of the line. That point, that line is pointing to the right. If it points to the right, what do I know about the slope? Yes, I know that the slope needs to be positive. So that confirms my 1/2. So far so good? Now, I can algebraically compare my slope, which is 1/2, with my formulas, right? So, in your reference material, there is a formula for a slope that says m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x of 2 minus x of 1. And of course, that refers to the points that are given to you or the coordinates. So my first coordinate is 5 and -2. Second coordinate is -3 and -6. And I want you to write labels here. So my labels will be x of 1 and y sub 1, because that's my first point. These will be x of 2 and y sub 2, because that's my second point. I'm going to ask you to circle the y coordinates, because those will go on my numerator. So let's continue. Y sub 2, it's -6 minus -2 over -3 minus 5. So what do I get? This will give me a -4 over a -8. And if you simplify, that's the same as negative divided by a negative. It's a positive. I can write it as a 4 over 8. And right now I want you to look at this 4 over 8 and the one that I got when I did rise over run. They're exactly the same. Very good. But if I move on and I actually simplify that, I will get 1 over 2. Therefore, my slope is 1 over 2. Which, if I notice on the right side, it's exactly the same thing that I got. So I can do rise over run, but I can also do the algebraic representation with the formula. So how many answer choices do I really have with 1/2? Well, there's one on A, and there's one on D. Very good. So now I need to go on and continue to find the y-intercept. Now remember that y-intercept means there is such a point that is on the y-axis. Very good. Is that right? So that means that if I look at my line, there's got to be one point that is crossing on the y-axis, which is right there. This is my y. And my y-axis, I do see a point that is right here. Now, unluckily for us, that point looks like it's between -4 and who else? -5, very good. So I know that it's not at -5, which if I look at the answer choices, that would have eliminated letter A, because letter A says that the y-intercept is at -5, and I know it's not. It's between -4 and -5. So I can predict that it's going to be a decimal, but it could be anything. It could be a -4.1, -4.2, -4.3, and so on. So for that case, I cannot just look at the graph and say that's my y-intercept. So I am going to need to do the algebra point of view. So I'm going to write down my slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. And I need to choose one point. So what point do I want to choose? Well, I can choose any of the 2 points that are given to me. So I'm going to choose 5 and -2, where 5 is x and -2 is y. Okay, so let's replace the values. The y is going to be -2. How about m? Well, m, I found it earlier as 1/2. X is a 5. And I'm going to continue by writing plus b. So I'm going to continue my equation. And 1/2 times 5, I can write it as a fraction, or I can write the decimal. Either one. So I'm going to say 2.5 plus b. Since I want to leave b by itself, I need to take away 2.5 on both sides. And that would cancel the 2.5 on my right, leaving b by itself. And let's see if you remember who's b. B is your y-intercept. Very good. I'm going to write down b over here. So y-intercept and b are exactly the same. Let's continue. -2 minus 2.5 gives me a -4.5. So according to my equation, it says that b is equals to -4.5. And I kind of predicted that, right? Because we said that the y-intercept was between -4 and -5. So according to my equation, it says that my answer should be a -4.5. Now, if you look at the answer choices, what do you notice? Yes, on my answer choices, it cannot be a -5, the y-intercept. Is that correct? Now, I want to write down that order pair as a coordinate. So the coordinate would be 0 and -4.5, where 0 is x and -4.5 is the y coordinates. Okay? So what answer choice am I going to choose for that? Yes, very good. The answer for this, should it be letter? I know what you're thinking. Miss, I don't see a -4.5. Is that what you're thinking? Okay, so what about if we change the answer choices to a decimal? So the only answer choice that I got right now is -9/2. If I change that fraction to a decimal, I will get -4.5, which is the same thing as my y-intercept. Now we can confirm that the answer should be letter D. Very good.